Who's going to present on the first one, Alex? Vacation of the private easement? Okay, all right. You're going to come up? All right, it is 1:30 and we are here to hear a few files. Our first one will be file VS0002-25, Vacation Title 50 of Private Easement. The applicant is requesting to vacate a portion of Burley Drive, a 40-foot easement dedicated by the Coyote Ridge plat. The easement proposed to be vacated is approximately 0.57 acres. The project site is located off Peakview Drive in Section 34, Township 56, North Range 3, West Boys Meridian. The proposal is located within the service area of Sagal Fire District. At first, we will call if there's any conflict of interest by the Board of Commissioners.
Commissioner Domke has no conflicts of interest.
Commissioner Korn has none.
Commissioner Williams has none. So we'll start with staff, and then if we can go through the hearing procedures. You want to read those? Thank you.
Here's your hearing procedures shown on the screen now. Kyle Snyder, Bonner County Planning staff.
Okay, so we'll start with staff is going to present their report. The applicant will provide an overview of the project, answer questions from the governing body, then we'll go into public testimony. We will do testimony in support of the project, then neutral, and then in opposition. Public testimony is limited to 3 minutes. All exhibits must be numbered prior to testimony. Exhibits will be retained by the county. Testimony must be specific to the project and code compliance. Try and avoid repetition. Applicant rebuttal, then no further public testimony allowed after rebuttal, and then the board will deliberate. During board deliberation, if a member of the board has a specific question of anybody, the board can ask a specific question of an individual, but individuals don't get to propose questions during that time of deliberation. So with that, does anybody have any needs for accommodation, any hearing issues, anything like that? All right, seeing that, we will go ahead and turn it over to staff to present.
Again, Kyle Snyder, Bonner County Planning staff. We're doing VS0002-25, which is a Title 50 plat vacation, more specifically a vacation of a private easement, Burley Drive. Quick project summary, the petitioner is requesting to vacate a portion of Burley Drive, which is a 40-foot wide easement dedicated by the Coyote Ridge plat. The request is based on discovery that the properties in the Coyote Ridge plat do not have legal access through Peakview Drive. The applicant owns lands to the south of the plat and intends to provide legal access to the lots of Coyote Ridge from those lands to the south. On the left, you have the current recorded plat of Coyote Ridge with the highlighted portion that they're proposing to be vacated. On the right side is a proposed replat showing the new access coming from the south of the Coyote Ridge plat. So the following sections of Idaho Code apply to this petition. We have 40-203, abandonment and vacation of county and highway district system highways or public right-of-ways, and then 50-1325, which is the easements and vacation of. The reason both of those are referenced, I'll get into a little more in the presentation. Some background as far as the site data, there are no hydrologic features on the property. It is within SFHA Zone X. There are varying slopes of 0 to 30+% on the property. The approximate area to be vacated is approximately 0.57 acres. And the current access to the property is provided via Peakview Drive, which is a privately owned and privately maintained easement just north of the plat. So for your agency review, a full list of the agency's notice and file can be found in the attached Annex A. The petition was noticed to neighbors within 300 feet on July 1st and was posted in the newspaper on July 1st and July 11th. The following agency provided comment, and that was Northern Lights. And then no comment we received from Kootenai-Ponderay Sewer District, ITD, and IDWR. No public comments were received on this proposal at the time the staff report was written. Starting off with compliance with Idaho Code 50-1325 easements, vacation of. That states easements shall be vacated in the same manner as streets. For Idaho Code 50-1325, easements shall be vacated in the same manner as streets. The vacation process for streets is processed through Idaho Code 40-203, abandonment and vacation of county and highway districts, system highways, or public rights of way. So for 40-203, statutory sections referenced below were found to be applicable during staff's review of the particular facts and circumstances as they relate to the proposed vacation. 4023-1 sets forth the procedure for the hearing and consideration of the petition. The commissioners may, by resolution, declare their intention to abandon and vacate any highway or public right-of-way, or to reclassify a public highway as a public right-of-way, where doing so is in the public interest. As far as staff response, no agency or public comments were received indicating the proposed vacation is not in the public interest. The proposed vacation will fix access issues. 42032 sets forth the standards for the consideration of a petition as it relates to access to properties abutting the proposed vacation. No highway or public right-of-way or parts thereof shall be abandoned or vacated so as to leave any real property adjoining the highway or public right-of-way without access to an established highway or public right-of-way. Burden of proof shall be on the impacted property owner to establish this fact. So staff has, based on the material submitted in this application, no real property adjoining the area to be vacated would be left without access to an established highway or public right-of-way. The applicant has proposed to grant access through a new easement to the south of the Coyote Ridge Plat. 42033 sets forth the standards for reserving easements for utility and other appurtenances. In the event of abandonment and vacation, rights-of-way or easements shall be reserved for the continued use of existing sewer, gas, water, or similar pipelines and appurtenances, or other underground facilities as defined in Section 55-2202 Idaho Code for ditches or canals, and for electrical, telephone, and similar lines and appurtenances. Staff response: vacation of this right-of-way will not extinguish any rights-of-way or easements for the continued use of existing sewer, gas, water, or similar pipelines, or other underground facilities as defined in Section 55-2202 Idaho Code for ditches or canals and appurtenances, and for electrical, telephone, and similar lines. Any utilities located in the proposed vacated portion shall be granted easements by the applicant accordingly. 40-2034 sets forth the standards for abandonment and compensation for vacating a public right-of-way that has been accepted as part of a recorded platted subdivision. A, the first part of that one, when a county or highway district is to consider the abandonment or vacation of any highway, public street, or public right-of-way that was accepted as part of a recorded platted subdivision, such abandonment shall be accomplished pursuant to the provisions of this section. Staff response: this section of state code is applicable to the proposed vacation request. The portion of Burley Drive that is requested for vacation is an easement that was accepted as part of the Coyote Ridge Plat, which was recorded on August 4th, 2022. B, when a county or highway district is to consider the abandonment or vacation of any highway, public street, or public right-of-way that was accepted as part of a platted subdivision that has never been improved or developed, such vacation or abandonment may be approved through the dedication of a new highway, public street, public right-of-way without compensation as set forth in this section or subsection 1I of this section. Per the application, new access is being proposed from Jewel Lake Road through parcels south of the Coyote Ridge Plat that are owned by the applicant. Finally, C, when a county is to consider the abandonment or vacation of any private right-of-way that was accepted as part of a recorded platted subdivision, said abandonment or vacation shall be accomplished pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 13, Title 50, Idaho Code. For Idaho Code 50-1325 easements, vacation of, easements shall be vacated in the same manner as streets. This is accomplished via Title 40, which this proposal has been reviewed against. Idaho Code 40-2035CI sets forth the standards by which a public highway or right-of-way shall be deemed abandoned. In any proceeding under this section or Section 4203A Idaho Code, or in any judicial proceeding determining the public status or width of a highway or public right-of-way, a highway or public right-of-way shall be deemed abandoned if the evidence shows that said highway or public right-of-way has not been used by the public and has not been maintained at the expense of the public in at least 3 years during the previous 15 years. This section is not applicable to the proposed vacation request, as Burley Drive is a private easement that has never been dedicated to Bonner County or maintained by the county. Idaho Code 42036 sets forth the procedure for abandonment upon a formal determination by the commissioners pursuant to this section that retaining the highway or public right-of-way for use by the public is not in the public interest. All other highways or public rights-of-way may be abandoned and vacated only upon a formal determination by the commissioners pursuant to this section that retaining the highway or public right-of-way for use by the public is not in the public interest. Such other highways or public right-of-ways may be validated or judicially determined at any time notwithstanding any other provision of law, provided that any abandonment under this subsection shall be subject to and limited by the provisions of subsections 2 and 3 of this section. Per the narrative statement provided by the applicant, Burley Drive is landlocked. I purchased the 40 acres of Coyote Ridge in 2023 and subdivided the parcel into 4 10-acre parcels. Surveyor Dan Proval created Burley Drive through the 4 parcels for access purposes. His contention was that the lots would have easement access through Peakview Drive to Burley Drive. The title company, Title I, also confirmed this. The county signed off on the plat. We were subsequently sent a legal notice from our neighbors contending that we did not have easement access to those lots through Peakview Drive. My attorney, Susan Weeks, agrees with the neighbors, and we are now suing the title company. The fact is that no one has legal access to get to Burley Drive, and it needs to be vacated because the reason we originally created the road no longer exists. I've since acquired more land to the south of me and intend to create official access from Jewel Lake Road to these parcels through an area without an easement dispute. On the screen here are the various findings of fact for this project. Some suggested conditions of approval. The vacation of the above described platted area shall be effective upon the recording of a resolution by the Bonner County Commissioners granting the vacation. Vacation of the platted area shall only be for the access easement as described above. All other easements existing on the subject area shall remain in place. 3, no lots or parcels shall be left without legal access. Or prior to the recording of the resolution, the applicant shall obtain and establish a recorded easement establishing legal access for the Coyote Ridge plat. 5, once a resolution is accepted by the Board of County Commissioners and recorded with the Bonner County Recorder, the applicant shall submit and receive approval of an application for a minor notational change to the Coyote Ridge plat to reflect the vacation of this private easement and show the new easement that would grant access to the lots of this plat. 6, costs for legal advertisements and recording fees shall be borne by the petitioner and shall be paid prior to the recording of the resolution for this vacation. Finally, the final decision rests with the governing body after the completion of the public hearing and consideration of all relevant oral and written testimony and evidence. Any questions for me?
Does the board have any questions for staff at this time?
None.
The only questions I had were answered in the conditions of approval, so I have none.
Okay, all right. The applicant here.
I'm here by teleconference.
All right, so with that, we'll allow the applicant. Can you state your name?
My name is Tarek Saab.
All right, did you want to add anything to the presentation?
Not at this time. I thought Kyle did an outstanding job. Thank you.
Okay, all right, cut. Oh, yeah, put your thing back up.
You want to
Yeah, so we're going to go to support, neutral, opposition, I believe. So are there people present that want to give a comment in support of this project? Going once. Anybody online I can't see? All right, and then let's say neutral of this project. No one neutral? All right. In opposition of this project? No opposition of this project. So these guys are not here for this case, I think. All right. So does anybody have a rebuttal to nobody saying anything different than what was just presented? No? All right, so we will close and go into deliberation of the board then. All right, thank you. All right, board, what say you on this one? Commissioner Korn?
I see no issues with it. I had concerns when I was initially looking at it till I got to the very last page where the conditions of approval are. That answered the questions that I had as far as this will not actually be legal and binding until there's new access put into place. That was my main concern, was how can you vacate something and really landlock it if it's not already landlocked now? But that doesn't seem to be an issue.
Commissioner Corn?
Donkey?
Or, sorry. It's because you always remind me to say you and to turn
You can
left.
deliberate with
And now
yourself if you'd like.
Do you have anything to add?
You're turning
Commissioner
I concur with,
It's your shirt is just really hitting me from this side.
I've reviewed, in review of all of the applicable codes, I concur with the findings of the staff report with regard to each applicable code. So I do believe that because there was a misunderstanding of access, the current approved plat is not legal because it doesn't provide the necessary access per code, and so it needs to be resolved. And so I find that this proposal is appropriate to resolve that legal access issue.
Okay. I find that it was in line with the statutes and didn't have an issue so long as those conditions are met. So I think it sounds like the board is ready to make a decision on this at this time. We'll entertain a motion. Commissioner Corn,
Yeah. Clear my throat on this one.
very good.
I move to approve the petition file VS 0002-25 to vacate a portion of Burley Drive, finding that it is in accord with Idaho Code 40-203 and 50-1325 as enumerated in the foregoing conclusions of law. Conclusion number 1, this proposal was reviewed for compliance with the vacation criteria and standards set forth in Idaho Code 40-203 and 50-1325. Conclusion number 2, Bonner County has not received objections to the petition or application to vacate the described area. Conclusion 3, the abandonment of the public right-of-way is in the public interest. Conclusion 4, the landowner or landowners abutting said right-of-way do have access to his, her, or their property from some other public street, public right-of-way, or private road. Conclusion 5, by granting this petition for vacation of this private easement, real property adjoining the subject right-of-way will not be left without access to an established highway or public right-of-way. This decision is based upon the evidence submitted up to the time the staff report was prepared and testimony received at this hearing. I further move to adopt the findings of fact and conclusions of law as set forth in the staff report or as amended during this meeting, and direct planning staff to draft written findings and conclusions to reflect this motion and transmit it to all interested parties. The action that could be taken to obtain the vacation is to complete the conditions of approval as adopted. This action does not result in the taking of private property.
Seconded?
There's a motion and a second. Any further deliberation by the board?
I have none.
Commissioner Donkey? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Donkey?
Yes.
Commissioner Williams?
Yes,
Commissioner Corn?
Yes.
motion passes. So our next file is S as in Sam 0000524 regarding Project Bahia del Sol, second edition. We'll call for conflict of interest on the board.
Commissioner Domke has none.
Commissioner Corn has none.
Commissioner Williams has none. So this goes the same way. We'll have, the staff will present, then we'll have the applicant, then we'll have comments in support, neutral, and in opposition, and then the board will move into deliberation. Has anybody entered that requires accommodation for this hearing? All right, seeing none, we'll turn it over for presentation.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Daniel Britt, Planning Staff. For the record, we're here to discuss files S0005-24, Villa del Sol, Second Edition, for a 23-lot subdivision request. The applicant is requesting to plat a 6.77 acre platted lot into 23 residential lots ranging from an area of plus or minus 0.24 acres to plus or minus 0.54 acres. The site has direct access and frontage on Bottle Bay Road, a Bonner County owned and maintained public right-of-way. Fiesta Shores Lane and Bonita Bay Lane both will be Bonner County owned and privately maintained public rights-of-way located in Section 2, 55 North, Range 2 West, Boise Meridian, Idaho. The property is zoned suburban and has a land use designation of transition. Background on the site. The site's on the slide to the right. Property currently exists as vacant land. The site is platted, is approximately 6.77 acres. The zoning is suburban, and the land use designation is transition. Access to the site is direct frontage on Bottle Bay Road, which is a Bonner County owned and maintained public right-of-way. Fiesta Shores and Bonita Bay Lane will be public right-of-ways. These rights-of-ways improvements were bonded for under file SS0002-24. Services to this lot are Mountain Springs Water Corporation for water. Sewer is Southside Water and Sewer District. Power would be Vista Utilities. Fire protection is Sagal Selkirk Fire District. This is within Lake Pend District number 84, Ambulance District of Bonner County, and is part of Pend Hospital District. So some environmental factors on this lot. The majority of the site contains no slopes or minimal slopes of less than 15%. The site contains mapped wetlands. The site does not contain any mapped bodies of water, streams, lakes, or rivers. The parcel is located within Special Flood Hazard Acts and is not located within a floodway. No local, state, or federal agency has identified any critical wildlife habitat on or within the vicinity of the subject property. This is taking a look at those environmental features. This would be the flood area. This is part of the wetlands. Underneath the flood area is another wetlands boundary. The slopes are indicated here in yellow. The site does contain two different soil types. Both are Milton silt loam. One is 0 to 2% slope and is prime farmland if drained. And the second one is Mission silt loam, 2 to 12%, is classified as prime farmland as well if drained. This is a look at the proposal. This is the preliminary plat, which we're here to discuss this afternoon. These are the following applicable standards in Title 12 that this project was reviewed against. We'll go over those in detail. So Bonner County 12-268 is the application process and general provisions, which is agency routing. Public agencies were notified of this application on July 1st, 2025. Bonner County Revised Code 12-612B is conformance with Bonner County Revised Code Title 12. This is for minimum lot size required is 10,000 square feet for suburban district where all urban services are available. Minimum lot size required is 20,000 square feet for suburban district where only urban sewer is available. Lot size required is 1 acre for the suburban district where only urban water is available. Minimum lot size required is 2.5 acres for the suburban district where no urban services are available. The subdivision proposed to to be served by Southside Water and Sewer District for sewer services and Mountain Springs Water Corporation for water services. The development received a will serve confirmation letter from Mountain Springs Water Corporation stating their ability to serve Bahia del Sol on parcel RP 026060000010A for water service. The site is also proposed to be served by Avista Utilities and is located within the Selkirk-Sagal Fire District. So 12-620, easements, constraints, reserved land areas to be shown and marked on the plats. Utility easements have been shown to be on the face of the preliminary plat and listed in the subject to section. Section 12-6-21, lot design, depth to width ratio of no more than 3.2 to 1 for lots less than 300 feet wide and not more than 4.2 to 1 for lots more than 300 feet wide, and the angle of intersection with fronting roads between 85 and 95 degrees for lots with less than 100 feet width. All proposed lots will have a width of less than 300 feet, so they have to maintain a ratio of the 3.2 to 1 in this case. Bonner County Revised Code 12-266, submerged lands. Submerged lands not to be counted towards density calculations. The subject parcel has no submerged lands. 12-623A for urban services. For lots less than 1 acre in size, urban services are required. The subdivision is provided or proposed to be served by the Southside Water and Sewer District for sewer services and Mountain Springs Water Corporation for water service. The will serve letter from Mountain Springs Water Corporation has been received for water service, and a will serve letter has been received from Southside Sewer and Water District for sewer services. The site is also proposed to be served by Avista Utilities, hard surface roads, and is located within the Sagal Fire District. Twelve 623B, water supply, lots to be served by connections to existing public or private water system. The subdivision is proposed to be served by the Mountain Springs Water Corporation for water service. Relevant will serve letter was submitted as part of this application. 12-623C, sewage disposal. Sewage disposal methods for all building sites as approved by Panhandle Health District and/or the state of Idaho may be provided. The subdivision is proposed to be served by the Southside Sewer and Water District for sewer services. Relevant will serve agreements were submitted as part of this application. 12-623D, fire plan, fire risk assessment. Assessment of the fire risk protection plan and defensible space plan. The fire risk assessment has been submitted. The subdivision will be served by Public Water System Mountain Springs Water Corporation. Mountain Springs provides fire flow to developments within their service area. The development will include 3 new fire hydrants. There's also an existing hydrant at the intersection of Bottle Bay Road. The hydrants will be spaced per fire code standards and capable of providing minimum pressure and flow requirements. 12624A, road name. A unique road name for new roads. Bonita Bay and Fiesta Shores are currently bonded for under construction. The names have been approved as found in file SS0002-24. 12-624B is the road standards. Roads to be designed to meet private road standards per Bonner County Revised Code Title 12, Appendix A. The roads are to be dedicated to the public. The roads within the proposal have been preliminary approved by Bonner County Road and Bridge Department and are currently bonded for as part of file SS0002-24. 12-624C, legal access. Legal access to each proposed lot. All lots are proposed to have direct frontage and access on roads proposed to be dedicated to the public. 12624D requires public and road frontage. For lots less than 5 acres in size, direct frontage and direct access to public roads required. All roads proposed within the subdivision will be dedicated to the public. 12-625 is trails and parks, Bonner County trails, and public access parks and facilities. Bonner County currently does not have any adopted trail plans. The project is not adjacent to any public access points of ingress or egress. 12-626A are natural hazards, subdivisions to be designed around identified natural hazards. The site does not contain slopes of over 15% grade. The site is not located within a designated floodway. It is located within Special Flood Hazard Zone X. The project would not require any further floodplain review. The project has been reviewed to meet the requirements of Title 12, Chapter 7. 12-626B, conformance with Bonner County Revised Code 12-7, conformance with environmental standards. The project has been reviewed to meet the requirements of Title 12, Chapter 7. And we'll get into Chapter 7 here momentarily. So 12-642A is the application content and application form. The applicant submitted the required application for a subdivision. 12-642B is the application content, preliminary plat approved by a licensed surveyor showing parcels to be created. An Idaho licensed surveyor did prepare the preliminary plat. 12-642B1 is the plat content. So the requirement here is subdivision name, geographic grid, north arrow, and vicinity map, and vicinity road pattern. The elements are all included in the submitted preliminary plat. 12-642B2 is the plat content. So boundary line of tracts, subdivisions, intersection property lines, abutting roads, names and addresses of adjoining owners shown on their respective places of ownership on the plat. These elements are all included in the submitted preliminary plat. 12-642B3, location, dimensions, and areas of proposed lots, lot numbering. The survey has systematically numbered each lot with dimensions and locations. 12-642B4, locations, dimensions, and tentative names of proposed streets and roads. Plat exhibits 2 60-foot dedicated rights-of-way. The streets are named Bonita Bay Lane and Fiesta Shores Drive. 642B5, significant contours to show the shape of the land and extending at least 100 feet beyond the proposed subdivision limits. The plat shows the contour lines from Fry Creek and the artificial high water mark. None of the proposed lots have frontage on any water bodies. 12-642B6, location of water courses, floodplains for the firm panels and the base flood elevations. Parcels is located within Special Flood Hazard Zone X and not located within a floodway. 12-642B7, existing wells, springs, wetland boundaries, wetland delineations, drainage channels, overhead and underground utility lines, structures, sanitary sewer, and culverts within the tract. A wetland delineation report has been submitted with this application. A note on the plat indicates that there are no wetlands present. 12-642B8, proposed method of water supply, sewage, and solid waste disposal. Note 5 of the plat indicates that Mountain Springs Water Corporation will be the provider of water. Note 6 indicates Southside Water and Sewer will provide sewage disposal. Note 7 addresses solid waste disposal is either the county transfer station or a private contractor. 12-642B9, all easements of record, including sufficient data to identify a conveyance. Note 10 of the plat indicates the conveyance of all easements. 12-642B10, proposed indication for parcels reserved for public dedication or common use of property owners. Note 9 of the plat indicates the dedication of the public right-of-ways within the proposal. 12-642B11, statement of intent to use the parcel. Note 4 of the plat indicates that lots proposed to be single-family residential. 12-642C2, preliminary road design and profile prepared by stamped and signed by a licensed or Idaho licensed engineer. The preliminary road design and profile prepared by James A. Stoll and Associates LLC and dated July 15, 2024 was submitted as part of SS 002-24. That's a typo there. The plan has been reviewed by Bonner County Road and Bridge. The improvements are currently bonded for under the SS 0002-24. So 12643A is application filed in accordance with 12268. The applicant submitted the required application for a subdivision. 12643B is for the public hearing process in accordance with subchapter 2.6. A public hearing has been scheduled and required in accord with subchapter 2.6 of Title 12. Validity of the preliminary plat. The preliminary plat shall be valid for a period not to exceed 2 years from the date of the approval. 12644, improvement plan. Plan to be prepared by a registered civil engineer and 2 copies provided. The project has been bonded for its improvements through planning file SS 00024-24. 12665, excuse me, 12645, standards for review or part of the conditions of law. 12646 is the final plat content. We're not at that stage, so this is not applicable at this time. Endorsements on the final plat for 12647 is not applicable at this time either. 12-7.1, which is shorelines. Subject property does not have any water, frontage, or contain any water bodies. 12.72 is the grading, stormwater management, and erosion control. Applicability. All new subdivisions subject to this provision of Chapter 6 of this title as amended, and all new planned unit developments subject to this provision of this Chapter 2, so 2.5 of this title as amended, except for as provided in subsection 12-72.3J of this subchapter. The applicant submitted a stormwater management and erosion control plan dated July 15th, 2024, prepared by James A. Stoll and Associates LLC on July 15th, 2024, and stamped by an Idaho licensed engineer B. Scott Brown. A surety has been submitted and approved as part of SS 0002-24, Bahia del Sol, first edition. 12-7.3 for wetlands, wetland delineation, wetland buffer, and setbacks. For national wetland inventory maps, the proposed contains PEM1C wetlands in the central portion of the proposal and PF01C wetlands on the western side of the proposal. The subdivider submitted a professional wetlands delineation at the time of submission of the subdivision application in accordance with this section of Bonner County Revised Code. The report indicates no wetlands are present. 12-6.4 for wildlife. No local agency or federal agency has identified presence of any critical wildlife habitat on site. 12.7.5 flood damage prevention falls under Title 14. Parcel is located within flood zone X and not located within a floodway. No further floodplain review is required for this project. 12-7.6 for hillsides, which is a geotechnical survey requirement. The site does not contain slopes over 15% grade. Geotechnical survey is required per BCRC 12762A when natural slopes of 30% or greater are present. List of agencies are included in the staff report. The agencies that commented were Bonner County Road and Bridge Department. They submitted an updated comment as of yesterday that's also included in your file this afternoon. Selkirk Fire District, Idaho Department of Environmental Quality, Idaho Transportation Department, Lake Pend Oreille School District number 84. Following agencies replied with no comment: Kootenai Pend Oreille Sewer District, Panama Health District, Idaho Department of Fish and Game, and Idaho Department of Water Resources. All their agencies that were notified did not reply. As the date of the staff report, public comments were received on this request. The zoning commission recommended approval. Their vote was 3-0. That concludes my presentations. I can take any questions the commissioners may have.
Does the board have any questions for staff at this time?
None.
Okay, thank you. All right, applicant.
Presentation.
Zeros.
Yeah, you can just use these arrows to go back and forth.
Okay, my name is Scott Brown. I'm a fourth-generation Bonner County native, and my parents have owned this property. My family's owned this property for about 75 years, and it's my parents' wish now to subdivide it so they can give some lots to their kids and grandkids, and then some of the remaining lots will be sold to help pay for the infrastructure and taxes and other associated project costs. Quite a bit of effort's gone into this project to this point, making sure it meets county code and verifying that there are adequate services available to support the development. And I've captured some of those key characteristics on the next few slides. The property is zoned suburban, and the comprehensive plan designation is land use is transition. According to county code, the suburban zone allows for a minimum lot size of 10,000 square feet, and the county encourages higher density development in the transition designated land use areas. Property currently contains a platted public right-of-way which all the proposed lots will front. Public drinking water will be provided by Mountain Springs Water Corp. and the Water Association and State Department of Environmental Quality have approved the water system to be constructed. One of the state DEQ requirements was to perform a water capacity analysis to show the system is able to support the proposed development without adversely impacting existing users. This analysis proved to be positive and is included in Mountain Springs 2024 state-approved facilities plan. Similarly, Southside Sewer District and the state of Idaho have approved plans and construction for the district to serve the development with sewer. In addition to water and sewer service, there's an existing bus stop at Bottle Bay Road, and the property is served with Avista Utilities and via broadband. The proposed road system will consist of the existing public right-of-way and a 26-foot wide road with a 24-foot paved travelway. The road geometry has been designed per the Bonner County Road Standards Manual, and the turnarounds within the development have been designed per the International Fire Code, which is also consistent with Bonner County's requirements. All of the infrastructure has been approved by pertinent agencies and utility owners, and construction and installation of the infrastructure began this month. As I mentioned, the proposed road has been designed per Bonner County Road Standards, and these standards meet or exceed International Fire Code requirements. 4 red dots on the map you're viewing represent fire hydrant locations within the development. There are 3 proposed fire hydrants and an existing hydrant at Bottle Bay Road. Based on design calculations, flow and pressure that would be provided to the hydrants has been verified to meet fire suppression requirements. And the parent parcel has historically been a hayfield for the most part, so the type of vegetation present represents a lesser risk of fueling wildfire spread than compared to many other denser areas in the county. And lastly, a trip generation letter for the development was prepared and reviewed by the Bonner County Road and Bridge Department Engineer and Public Works Director. They have found that a full traffic impact study is not warranted. At that time, if the board has any questions.
Does the board have any questions for the applicant?
I do.
Okay, Commissioner Donkey.
Yeah, perfect, thank you. So on the fire protection and traffic aspect, let me pull up the name. So the Bonita Bay Lane, the northwestern branch of the proposed road system. I'm curious if you have more information with regard to the compliance that that road has with the International Fire Code with regard to having a turnaround at that dead end in order to meet the emergency service vehicle egress requirements?
That does meet, the dimensions of that turnaround do meet the International Fire Code hammerhead requirements. It's, I could give you the dimensions. It's a minimum of 150 feet, I believe it is, from where you see that dog leg, and then the dog leg is 70 feet long from one side of the road to the other side of the end of the turnout there.
Okay.
20-foot width minimum International Fire Code. These are 24-foot travelways.
Appreciate that. Just I didn't see any of those details in the application documents.
Yeah, and same thing with the hammerhead at the other end. That's an International Fire Code and Bonner County radius for that hammerhead, which has been approved by Bonner County.
Thank you.
Any further questions from the board, from the applicant?
I was kind of curious if his family owned a restaurant, but it's not really relative.
Okay. All right. So at this time, we'll go into public comment. So we'll start with public comment in support of the application. Is there anybody online with their hand up? Nope. Okay. So we'll go Matt Linscott.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Matt Linscott, Barn County residents. I've been aware of this parcel I grew up in Signal my whole life too. I've always kind of known that at some point that was going to get subdivided up. I applaud the way that it's been formatted. Especially with the fire hydrants, fire access roads, the turnarounds. I'm in favor of it. Like I said, I've been living in Sig my entire life. I'm very familiar with this property. I boat by it. I drive by it all the time. I've always known that it was going to be subdivided. In my heart, I just knew it was going to be a prime location for it. So I'm in favor of it.
Okay. Anybody else in support of the application? All right, we'll go to neutral. All right, anybody online for neutral? All right, opposition. Are you first up here, Wayne? You're not?
I haven't written anything down for that one.
Let's see. No, it actually goes, let's see. Are we 225?
That's the other sheet, I think.
You put it
The
on
limited
top of
one.
mine. All right, you're not first, but Paul made his last name very difficult to read, so I'm not going to try.
Handwriting, not my name.
Okay. So I'm not
See
going
my
to,
wife's handwriting.
not going to fall into that trap. So whoever Paul is can speak. How's that? So state your first and last name and Bonner County resident.
Paul Gernstein,
Okay.
and I've lived right up against where apparently all these homes are going to be crammed. We moved in right around Christmas 21, and I actually spoke to your dad at one point, or Mr. Bill Brown, and said, hey, I'd be interested in trying to buy the property behind me. I had no idea what it was. He immediately, I didn't even get the sentence. I said no.
So I'm going to pause you just 1 second. Your clock runs at 3 minutes.
Oh.
So I don't want you to not get your point out, and then just address all of your concerns to the board. So can you start his clock over, since he wasn't talking about his comment, and then
I didn't, okay.
watch your clock? Thank
Okay,
you.
so anyway, I feel there's a bunch of various issues that are in violation, not violation, but contradictory to your comprehensive plan. And those would be This is going to violate open space. This is all for Sagal. This is the planning commission's open space. That's a goal. Low traffic congestion, quiet and solitude, a sense of community. I mean, those are all opposite of what's going to happen if there's 30 or 40 homes literally 20 feet behind my property. I know that there is zero recourse for losing a view. You can't, it's nice, I really enjoy the view half the year. And if it's gone, there's no recourse. But there is recourse precedent for invasion of privacy. And if there's 2.5 homes looking down into my backyard, that's not, that doesn't coincide with privacy. Another thing is the traffic. I saw that it said the Idaho Transportation commented. I talked to them last week, the state, and they had not heard anything about it. And they were a little surprised that that many homes were going to be going onto a state road, Highway 95. And they asked if a TIS, a traffic impact study, had been performed. And they had not seen one. They were a little kind of surprised that they hadn't been contacted. As far as the water, I've talked to Jerry Lewis, who is not the comedian, but the guy who owns Mountain Springs. And he said, yeah, he agreed right now they can handle the water. And I said, Jerry, climate goes, what if there's a prolonged drought? That could impact the current users. And the big one, I think, is the traffic, what it's going to put onto the Bottle Bay Road. It's impossible between 6 and 8:30 in the morning, and 3 and 5 to turn left onto 95. So the addition of this many homes is really gonna, it's gonna compound the situation worse. And again, I kind of don't understand how that could fly. With the traffic and possibility for accidents, people turning left. So I am, and I think everyone has the right to, build stuff within reason. Maybe not 10,000 square foot lots, but maybe just keep it where it had been originally, ½ acre. That would be more fair, I think.
Great, thank you.
My time's up.
No worries. All right. Who knows that there's the second name on this? Because it's Travis, maybe? What was that last name scribble? Okay, thank you.
Hi.
I decoded it.
All right. Hi, I'm Travis Storm. I live at 119 Comeback Bay Lane. Been there since October of 2012. Very much enjoyed having the open space and the privacy that we've raised our kids with in front of our home. Obviously, the applicant, Mr. Brown, is a very intelligent man, very well versed in county codes, being a surveyor. The application was obviously put together correctly. I can't fault any of that. What I would say is when we bought into our home and our development, we've had a ½ acre minimum requirement that was set forth in the CCNRs in the 1970s. Unfortunately, that hasn't been honored by some of the other folks in the development, and they've been able to parse off 0.26 acres from one of the parcels. But everything else from Bottle Bay Road all the way to the end of Comeback Bay Lane is basically at least ½ acre. And that's what the Sagal area, or at least that portion of Sagal, is accustomed to seeing, is ½ acre or larger parcels. I live on 0.85 right now. To take them down to as low as 0.24, again, like Paul, who's 2 lots over from me, that means 2.5 lots share my western border of my property. My neighbor to the north of me would be in the same situation. And then the new road coming in from the northwest, where they would be turning left to go out toward Bottle Bay Road on the main road there, they'd be shining their headlights right into my living room windows and my bedroom windows. Oh, it's definitely not ideal. It would be nice if there were some conditions such as larger property or larger lot size minimums privacy fence would be great, something to block headlights from shining into my windows and have my neighbor's backyard be basically just open in my backyard. And then I share the concerns about the traffic. I mean, I work from home now, but I used to work at the airport here. It was not bad for about the first 5 years that I lived here. Since Sandpoint has grown so exponentially in the last number of years, traffic on Bottle Bay to 95 has just become horrendous. A lot of times I have to take Lignite all the way to Sagal Road and out to the light just to be able to turn left. So you're crossing the railroad tracks twice just to make a left turn onto 95. So compounding that issue by adding another 27 homes in that small lot size, unfortunately, I'm not in favor of it. It's going to be a problem. But otherwise, like I said, I'm sure the application crossed Ts and dotted Is, and I don't mean to just be a complainer. I'm just saying that I hope you'll consider increasing the minimum lot size and putting some provisions in for the privacy of the adjacent properties.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Martin.
I normally would say my comments are neutral, but
We
I've
haven't
had other
had a
commissioners say no.
neutral
Wayne Martin, Bonner County resident for the record. The fire plan states that hydrant minimum water pressure, that's a concern, or should be a concern, especially if there's a drought and all. Minimum requirements are disastrous or potentially disastrous. Fire breaks, minimal existing vegetation. Again, the word minimal. Wildfires can be exceptionally difficult for putting out. And if there's multiple fires going on, to get additional fire service out is going to be extremely difficult. I was not aware of the half-acre minimum before, and I'm in favor, having heard that, to increase the lot size would be much more beneficial for the neighborhood and the people around. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in opposition of the project that wants to give a comment? All right, seeing none, we will go back to rebuttal. Does staff have anything they want to say?
Did you have any questions or
Nope.
concerns over the code that I can address for you?
No, I don't have any questions. Does the board have questions for staff?
No.
Okay. All right, applicant.
Just two quick comments. So the original subdivision, Comeback Bay, to the east of this proposed subdivision, when those lots were subdivided, that was before there was public water and sewer in the area.
Can I pause you for 1 second? Can the people online hear, because your microphone's a little bit away and I want to make sure that's not an issue. Matt, can you hear him speak clearly?
Yes, I can. Fine.
Okay, thank you.
Anyway.
You can lift it up or not punch down.
I don't want to break it. Anyway, the original subdivision there to the east of this, yes, it does have larger lots, but that was developed before there was public water and sewer in the area. So our forefathers kind of saw that, I think, and probably at that time you couldn't reduce it down to quarter acre lots like you can now. The public services were put in sometime mid-90s, public services being Southside Sewer and Mountain Springs Water. And the other comment, I too, live off Bottle Bay Road and trying to get on the highway, yes, that's a problem. I don't disagree with that, and it's changed quite a bit over my lifetime. But the issue on the highway is the traffic running north and south, which passed the Bottle Bay Road intersection. And so this is, if you were to deny this subdivision based on traffic, I don't think you're solving that problem. There may be someday a little bit more queuing at the intersection on Bottle Bay Road trying to pull out on the highway, but it's up to the transportation department to to put in more lanes or something to actually help the north-south traffic, which is plugging up the intersection.
Okay. All right, with that, we will go into deliberation by the board. Commissioner Domke.
So right now I'm trying to balance the concern of exactly what was just mentioned by the applicant, the traffic safety issue that exists at Highway 95 and Bottle Bay Road. There's the issue we have in my mind of, on the one hand, there's almost a conflict. We have our comprehensive plan that encourages that we focus our higher density development where we have urban services available, and that makes sense. And also being closer to transportation. So those things are, I think, appropriate and good. But I am concerned about, in this location, knowing that we already have a traffic hazard issue that is not, there's no known resolution to that problem in the near future. I mean, ITD has indicated in their public presentations that they're 10 or more years out with trying to start a project to improve Highway 95 in that area. And so I think that we have this balance issue of, yes, when we have infrastructure in place to support higher density, that's the better location than doing it where it's sprawl out in the middle of the rural communities. But we also are supposed to look at the balance of the impact to the other property owners and their property rights. And we're supposed to be looking at the safety and hazard issues. And so to create that many new homes and that many additional vehicle trips, school children needing to go to and from, the school, all of that, I feel like we have an imbalance going on, and trying to figure out how best to deal with those two issues that seem to be, in conflict with one another.
Commissioner Corn?
So I have a differing opinion. Looking at the proposal, and it was quite thorough from the planning department, and there is no conflict with any of our county codes. I understand the negative comments as far as the density or the size of the lots and all, but those size of lots are allowed under our county code with the circumstances that are present, having the city, or not city, but the municipality of water and sewer. And I would agree with the comment made by the appellant. If that would have been bare land up until the last 10 years or so, I think all the lots in there would probably be 10,000 square feet or so because of those services there that are offered for water and sewer. I did not read any negative comments from the school districts or any other municipalities or fire districts or EMS or anything like that, saying that it was going to create a problem on their end. So I'm just not seeing any conflict of what the appellant would like to do. No reason.
So there are some comments, and that's where I pulled some questions from. So when you read our own Road and Bridges response to the project, it actually, the issue isn't coming up with the project and the way the project is being planned. It is actually focusing around the increased density and traffic. And so Dr. Meyer with the school was in opposition. She cited that they were at maximum capacity for the school and had concerns with the significant increase in density. And I paid attention to her letter because I have had open comments about the canned letter, and this letter looks to be a different letter because it's specifically addressing the capacity of the school. One of the things that originally Road and Bridge for Bonner County gave a comment about the traffic study and saying that that hadn't been received. But the comment that we received back in July from Road and Bridge adds something that gives me pause. It says, thank you for sending this along. After reviewing with Director Top, it falls below the threshold for the TIS on the peak vehicle counts. Though there could be an argument to be made about how problematic the Bottle Bay and Highway 95 intersection is in regard to safety and congestion. However, even with that intersection in mind, it would not be realistic or feasible to require the developer to make major improvements to Highway 95 to the tune of millions of dollars to rectify the issue. The solutions to that intersection lie with ITD doing the major overhaul of the entire corridor, including adding frontage roads and interchanges, in accordance with their recent concept plans. Therefore, we will not suggest that a TIS be required as part of this development. But what they're saying is that there is an issue that needs to be resolved with relationship to the health and safety of everybody considered, that it is not reasonable to require the developer to put in the money to make those adjustments. But they're not making an argument that the health and safety has been addressed. Essentially, for me, the problem is that neither the developer nor the county are responsible to fix the safety issue. So we would be pushing more people onto a known safety issue, noting that it's for ITD to repair, and they, in their own concept plan, are years behind. And that is part of the problem I have with this one, is that the applicant, I have an argument also on lot size. I understand some of the concerns on lot size, but it really rests in the health and safety aspect. We're recognizing, everybody's recognizing, but we're also saying that we are not going to get that fixed. So the question is, do you put in more people into a known health and safety issue or not? And that's part of a concern I have, because I think that a good job was done on all sides. I think Mr. Brown got that information to Road and Bridge, but if we approve the increased development, we are agreeing that we are creating an increased safety issue by our own county opinion on this particular project. And it's not that, in some of the things that the community did give comments on, I understand the not liking of the growth and the development and the increase in density, but their zone is actually allowed for that. But I can't get past that. I can't make that increase at this time safe, because we're not in charge of that, and that's an ITD issue. And then there's the secondary issue of the school is identifying an issue, and how much you weigh the impact to the school. We've never really kind of addressed as a county, but you have two comments that are giving a specific comment to the increase in density that impact the safety of all residents, not just the project. That was something that I couldn't get past, and this is an updated comment that was into our system on July 21st, after Mr. Brown emailed Road and Bridge. And I tried to look through the code, and we have an obligation for that. I then would go to some of the questions that, I thought your last name was familiar because you wrote a whole letter also to the county, and there was a comments about the different parts of the comprehensive plan in terms of increased density. But when I looked at those concerns, I agree that the surrounding area doesn't match, but it doesn't change that where that property sits. It allows for us to drop it down to the smaller footprint, even though it doesn't mirror the rest of that neighborhood. But I get stuck on Bonner County giving the opinion that it is a safety risk that doesn't get resolved, and agreeing that the applicant shouldn't have to pay. But also the county has information that that corridor is not going to be fixed for years to come. So is this project ahead of the safety aspect of that particular corridor? And that's where I can't get around, because everybody's actually agreeing with that issue in that area.
So I think we're going to get hung up if we're saying that we don't want to accept this subdivision because of the traffic that is coming up to Highway 95. That wouldn't necessarily all be coming from this subdivision, but other smaller land divisions that are going to use that same road. I think we might be going down a slippery slope if we're going to use that as a reason to deny. I think if the county in a whole and the board sees a safety issue with that road and 95, that they might want to entertain putting a moratorium on building or something. Every piece of property out there that would utilize that road and that intersection. Because by denying a person to do a subdivision, was it 26 lots?
23.
23 lots. It's very easy to say that 23 lots could be added in that area, even miles away, that are still going to use that intersection, because that intersection, I mean, goes all the way out to Garfield Bay, Bottle Bay, that the amount of traffic is still going to increase, and we're going to not deny one person dividing their land, one parcel into two here and there, and creating the same problem. So I would just put caution on that would be the reason to deny. As far as Dr. Meyer goes, I believe Dr. Meyer might have a conflict of interest on her letter, because she actually lives out in that area. So I have not seen in any of the other land issues where a school has written a negative letter to the board stating that their school is at capacity. So I would also throw caution to the wind on that one.
So conflict of interest is whether or not she financially gains from it. And
That's
so,
the legal term, yes. I'm using that term loosely.
okay. So I'm clarifying that part on what that means for the setting that the Board of Commissioners is in. And her response isn't about, she's giving a comment about the census of the school itself. And so that's one aspect. So when I'm talking about the safety aspect of the road, that's what the Local Land Use Planning Act, it requires us to take into consideration the impact, not just to the person requesting. And this is just conversation. I'm not saying one way or another right now, but we have to take into consideration the impacts to everybody. And it isn't the same when you put that with the acreage that you have here and you put your increased density on that. It isn't just what we were talking about in 95. It's how do you get out of that development? And in part, that is what Chief Armstrong was addressing in his response in terms of Selkirk Fire, is the coming and going off of that particular road and the impact and that increase. There are other areas on roads where the increase in density impacts what's coming onto 95, and I think that's what the comment from our road and bridge is addressing, of the impact of the density on this spot in that road, not in all of 95, because otherwise that wouldn't be reasonable to say all impacts on 95 should be borne by an individual landowner. It's what does the increase of what we're being asked to look at. And convinced me of why the comment from Road and Bridge is, because it feels like the way I read Road and Bridge's comment is, it's going to take years to fix the safety issue. That's really what they're saying, but does that mean you put in the development before we address the safety issue? We're here at the time where I have to consider the safety issue. I would have to make a comment that says the safety of all of the residents that would be impacted in that area is not as important as the desire to develop the area. And that's a hard one, because the statute tells me that I'm not to put the benefit of one over others. It's supposed to be that it's in line with what I'm supposed to consider, and safety is an aspect. And again, it's our road and bridge telling us that the safety problem is a multi-million-dollar problem to fix. Do we compound the safety problem for the entire community for one development?
I feel you're looking at me.
I'm so looking at you. You can't feel
So
it.
finally, turn to the left.
Like I've been calling him corn today. So
Yeah, it's one of those days. And I'm just going to defer back to my previous comment, that we're not going to deny, I don't know, I mean, it's a hypothetical question, other people within a 10 or 15 mile radius of that area that's using that same road there. Could I ask planning to throw a picture of that up on the screen for us while we're discussing that? Showing the intersection, is that Lignite Road? I would just like to see the development area that's being proposed and the intersection we're discussing where it hits 95. Bottle Bay Road. I have no idea, and I don't think anybody in this room has an idea of how many people use Bottle Bay every day on a daily basis. I'm going to guess it's quite large. I'm just talking about the fair and equity part of if we want to do something about the safety of this intersection, we should entertain putting a moratorium on everything that would be utilizing that road in that intersection so that we're treating everybody fairly. That's what I'm saying.
Do you think you would achieve the same result of treating everybody fairly by considering the safety of everybody with each file versus just blanketly saying no? Because I don't know the area. I'm just looking at the statute and the information presented. So I don't travel that area to know that. But I know that the evidence that the county presented to the county is a safety issue that doesn't get resolved by putting a development into that spot. It gets exacerbated by putting the development into that spot. That's the opinion of the county. And so when you come to a hearing, when you hear that information, couldn't you have the same outcome of addressing it by not ignoring it and making your decision inclusive of the objective information that you received?
So I think it would be a different situation if the road to the subdivision was creating a problem to Bottle Bay Road at that intersection, that the subdivision itself was creating a problem right there where it intersects the county road. That's not the case. The case that's being talked about is further up there on Bottle Bay Road where it intersects Highway 95. So if, like I said before, I think if we want to address that issue, we need to address it as a whole, fair and equitably among everybody out there. Because what you're kind of suggesting is that you hold this landowner hostage because of a safety issue at 95 that has been there for many years, it sounds like, and is not going anywhere, but yet we're not going to hold anyone else hostage. That could be 4 miles down that road. I'm not real familiar with the area either. I've been out there a few times, and I know that that road goes for many miles in both directions. And I think there's only two ways to access 95. There in Sagal Road, if I'm correct. That's about a mile or so down the road where the stoplight is that was brought up earlier. So there's, I'm going to guess, thousands of people that use those two intersections to access 95.
I'm going to change your word hostage, though, because I'm going to say compliance to 676502. That tells me that the purpose of the act shall be to promote the health, safety, and general welfare of the people of the state of Idaho, and it gives requirements to do that. So I'm not holding anyone hostage. I'm taking a file and I'm looking at the Local Land Use Planning Act and using the title that I'm supposed to adjudicate a decision by to make sure that I'm not violating one for another, but I'm ensuring that if I were to say, yes, move forward, that I can say that I have not removed the concern and the obligation to promote the health and safety of everyone of Bonner County for one property. We are the ones giving the opinion to ourselves that says there's a safety issue that doesn't get resolved. So I'm saying, how do we calculate 676502 into the decision if we know that there's a safety issue? And that is what we are in this particular hearing. Our job is to actually use that. So I would challenge you to tell me how a decision that says move forward is in compliance with all of the subsections of 67502. Because when we make the decision, part of, regardless of which way you go, we need to hit the title and the ordinances that impact the decision. And that's one of the ones that I have had difficulty with getting passed because of all of those requirements there. That's what I'm
That's
saying.
fine. And I understand your point. I'm not even really arguing the point. I am deliberating my point. And my point is that if we want to actually follow the statute and not hold anyone hostage, as you say,
As you said, I just clarified, 676502.
I just have to throw that in there. I want to keep this light. Then I think we need to look at, like I said earlier, putting a moratorium on building in that area that accesses that road, put a moratorium on ADUs that access that road, put a moratorium on RV spots that access that road. 23 houses, you look at an average of 46 more vehicles. So it's real easy to add 46 vehicles to that road, just in other common things that we aren't discussing. So I'm just coming at it, I'm not saying that there is or isn't a safety issue. I'm saying that if we are recognizing a safety issue, then we need to address it as a whole and not piecemeal it, I guess.
So from my perspective, if we back out and take a larger view, we have numerous intersections, just looking at Highway 95, for example, that are safety hazards, that are recognized safety hazards by the state. And so that, to your point, Commissioner Corn, if we were to say that we were going to take that moratorium approach, we would probably be looking at a significant portion of the county that would have to be impacted by that if we were going to look at everything that feeds into an unsafe intersection. I don't consider that to be a reasonable approach. When I look at this particular proposal, what I'm seeing is we have a location where we do have a known safety concern with an intersection. I look at the context of the area at large around that neighborhood, and what I see is primarily parcels that are a half acre or larger for the context. The suburban zone allows for, but does not require the minimum size for a parcel. It allows to go down to that size. So that's a minimum. And we are supposed to be considering all of the different factors. So in my mind, I'm looking at this and thinking that a reasonable approach when considering all of the factors would be if the subdivision was to be approved with the right conditions, including meeting a half acre minimum lot size, then we would be significantly reducing the number of vehicle trips that are going into an unsafe intersection while still allowing for development to occur within a higher density total amount on the parcel, because it is a suburban zone, which allows for greater density than 1 per 5 acres, such as the adjacent R5 zoning in that area. So to me, it's about figuring out how to deal with trying to mitigate some of these concerns to the best of our ability, since we don't have the direct capability to really deal with the 95 corridor, being that that's the ITD jurisdiction. So to me, that's the more reasonable path that I'd like to try to pursue with the board is, can we come up with conditions that we think would reduce the hazards that are associated with that and better fit the character of the neighborhood?
Did you want to ask the applicant if they were looking to be interested in a half acre lot size? Is that your?
No, this is a board decision, so.
Well, the reason I'm asking you is because their application as submitted is what we're actually reviewing.
Right,
And
so
so,
the conditions of approval would be as the board were to determine.
This isn't really a cup, right? So can we make conditions? I don't know if that's in our our wheelhouse.
So what I'm asking is, what they have submitted is what we're being asked to review. And for me, we also have what we have here agreed to as a board is that we're going to go through our worksheet that has the lines for what they're asking for. So if we're going to say, so you're essentially saying no to what they're asking for, and you would be adjudicating something, a different condition here. I am hearing, this is phase 2 of something that they have already started. If we were going to move, if you were going to make a suggestion, part of me says, I'm going to still want to see what Road and Bridge thought are on if that would help to mitigate the problem, only because I have something, it's not the same application. We're not reviewing, we don't have comments on a lot size of half an acre. We have comments on what they're asking for. And so to be fair to the applicant, this isn't let's set a condition on their approval. This is what they've asked for. This is their project. Does that make sense? They're not.
If you want to proceed that way, that's fine. But the board has the authority to make conditions of approval if we want to approve the application. So I'm a little confused.
But you're not approving their application. You're not giving a condition. You're actually changing their application to a different lot size.
But any condition can make alterations to the proposal. So I'm just trying to deal with the semantics of
It's not semantics.
how you're pursuing it.
They have asked to build on a smaller lot size. That's what they're asking for. So a condition to approve that is like saying 3 fire hydrants in that area if it's that lot size. Your recommendation is to increase the lot size, but that's not what they're asking for. So it's not a condition of approving their application. That's a recommendation that it's just a different application. And so that's what I'm pointing to. We're not approving what they're asking for if you change his lot size. You're changing what he's asking for and saying, the application doesn't come in saying, I just want to increase the density, so you tell me how I could increase the density. It's coming in with a specific request that they have engineered for. A condition of approval is what would you say you would have to do in order to give him what he's asking for. But that if you change his lot size, that's not what you're doing. You're saying, in order just to let you build and increase the density, I would want you to do this, but that's changing his application. That's why I'm asking for.
I see your point, and I'm fine with proceeding that way.
So
It's just the only course I can see going forward.
And I don't disagree with that course. It's what are we here for is what he asked for,
Sure.
not how could we make that work. So sometimes you might say not a condition of approval, but you would say I would remand it for consideration to increase the lot size back to planning or something, but not that, because we're not deciding on a change. We're just deciding on what he asked for. And it's, Commissioner Korn, are you accepting the argument from Commissioner Domke about increasing the lot size so that the density is overall decreasing the safety concern that's presented from the county?
I understand the point, and I would still support it, obviously, as I'm supporting it as it is. What I don't think I can support is the fact that we want to change it. Because I really don't see, we're supposed to be looking at our worksheets, and we're supposed to be deliberating on whether or not it meets this section of code, and does it meet that section of code? And going down this quite lengthy list of codes here, it meets every one of them as it is. So I don't know if I can put my name on that. I understand what you're attempting is to cut down on half of the newer proposed traffic and all. I'm concerned on a legal basis.
So to that point, Commissioner, if you were to look at a proposed motion to approve, some of the conclusions of law that we would have to be able to reach would be such as conclusion number 5. The proposed subdivision will not cause circumstances to exist that will cause future residents or the public at large to be exposed to hazards to health or safety.
Okay,
Conclusion.
oh, you got more?
Yeah,
Sorry.
conclusion 6, no problem.
Your shirt's too bright.
Yeah.
The design of the proposed subdivision or related improvements will provide for coordinated access with the county system of roads and with adjacent properties and will not impede the use of public easements or access or through the proposed subdivision. The proposed transportation system is designed to adequately and safely serve the future residents or users without adversely impacting the existing transportation system by reducing the quality or level of service or creating hazards or congestion. I cannot find that we would be in compliance with those two conclusions of law. And so I'm understanding the point that you're making, and I agree it's important that we be able to show that we're following the law. I'm finding that I can't agree that we would be following those provisions, those conclusions of law based on this condition that we're addressing. And so that's where I'm hung up. It's not about the details inside the subdivision of how to comply with those other aspects of the code, because I agree, I think it's been well prepared. It's what happens outside of it that we're also being told that we have to consider and be able to find that it's in compliance with. So that's the piece where I'm stuck, is I can't find compliance with those.
So is the board prepared to make a decision on this file, or do you want to exercise the fill out your form and come back and deliberate with the decision?
I didn't get a form for this one. I got, what I got was this.
The
Right.
blank version, that is the worksheet in this case, I found out.
It is.
It is.
So this is our form, right?
Yes.
And we're supposed to just go through every Title 12 that it pertains to and say yes or no.
Correct.
Does it?
Yeah,
And-
the issue, I think, though, and if I am understanding, Commissioner, is that sometimes the worksheet starts at the highest level, Idaho code, and then works down. This one doesn't have that, and that might be an issue with the worksheet that we need to address. Because ultimately, we still have to find that it's also in conformance with the comprehensive plan and with LUPA. And so I think that's where we're getting hung up, because if you look at, for example, the proposed motions and all of the conclusions of law that are listed, we also are having to indicate that we're in compliance with Idaho code. And so it's just formatted differently this time, so I think it's not as apparent in this case.
So just, I don't know if this will speed things up or not, but I read through every one of these. And we went through it again at the beginning of the presentation. And I got to say, like I said earlier, that I don't see any of these that it is in conflict with our code. So that being said, it's not going to help to give me more time. I'm not opposed if either one of you would like more time. But I don't see any conflict in any of those. And it sounds like you might, I don't know. And I'm open to taking more time if that's what you guys would like. I have no problem with that.
So did you fill out so the way that planning is doing it is they're putting that worksheet in that folder. And so it'll say blank, so it says the blank reasoning worksheet is how they call it. So when you look into that shared folder, they're putting the reasoning worksheet. And so part of the reason that we're filling that out is that when we do this, when we send it over to planning, and it allows for the record to be tighter, because if there's appeal, then that information goes on to the next level. So hearing that you didn't fill that out, and that there's to address kind of what Commissioner Domke is commenting on in terms of would you offer an approval that had a lower or a higher lot size? My recommendation is then that we finish the form, turn it in, and then you can get a legal opinion. Unfortunately, your bill is out until next week, but we might find someone to give that comment, and then do our decision at a different time. Or we can go through it. I'm stuck on the same thing that Commissioner Domke reads when you're talking about your approval. So I can go through my sheet, he can go through his sheet, but we're supposed to, if we do that, then we have to be able to turn it over to them. And so we need yours too. So are you agreeable to?
Postpone our deliberation.
Yes.
And actually, I want to add to that. I think in this case, there's some confusion that's been created with the way the worksheet's been prepared. Because again, if we look at the conclusions of law that we need to come to, if we were to approve, even if we were to approve conditionally, the part of the conclusions of law require that we indicate that it's not in conflict with the policies of the Bonner County Comprehensive Plan. But those policies are not part of the worksheet, but we have to include them. So we need to make that part of our final deliberation and decision-making process. And so I'm thinking it might actually be in our best interest to continue the hearing so that we can make sure that we are going to cover all of the pertinent points to come to the decision. Because the way the worksheet's set up right now, and I didn't catch this prior, it's not including the comp plan. And so we have to legally go through that. So without that component, it would be an incomplete decision-making process.
Agreed?
I'm fine with that.
So it looks like jail inspection got changed to the 28th on Monday. 20.
Commissioner, we have a date set aside already next week.
What's your date?
July 31st. I believe it's at 1:30 for any of.
1 o'clock?
1
to 4
o'clock, sorry.
p.m.?
Yeah,
1 to 4?
in case any files that
Okay.
we hear today need to be continued, so.
All right, and so the way that we do this when we don't make a decision in this meeting is that the continuation is just for further board deliberation and a decision. It's not going to obtain additional public comment on either side. So what we will do is with respect to, let me grab the file here. File S0005-24 subdivision preliminary plat for Bahia del Sol. We will continue to the 31st of July at 1 p.m. All right, our next file is AM 0002-25 text amendment for Title 12. With that, we will turn it over to our planning department.
Can I ask a quick question? Can you come back on the 31st?
If you'd like to, you can, or you can Zoom it.
But they won't be allowed to talk,
Correct.
so you know. You won't be allowed to talk. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioners. Alex Fain, planning staff. So say we're going to hear file AM 0002-25, a Title 12 text amendment regarding 12-333, the commercial use table. These are the standards at which this text amendment was reviewed against. This was published in the newspaper for this hearing on July 1st and also noticed to public agencies on July 1st as well. So the proposed code amendment is for BCRC 12-333. The request is to eliminate recreational vehicle parks and campgrounds from the agriculture, forestry, rural and rural service center districts. And for clarification, it would be to prohibit them in those zoning districts. They are currently conditionally allowed. So the Board of County Commissioners has directed the planning staff to initiate a code amendment to BCRC 12-333 to remove recreational vehicle parks and campgrounds as a conditional use in the rural agricultural forestry and rural service center zoning districts. The board cited several concerns, including strain on already limited infrastructure in these areas, potential increases in density that may conflict with the character of lower density zones, and inconsistencies with the goals and policies of the county's comprehensive plan. According to AM 0007-19 staff report, the proposal that led to the current code that we have today, the original intent of allowing this use in the agricultural, forestry, rural, and suburban zones was to address growing demand for recreational opportunities in the county. The report stated that as recreation in the county continues to increase, there are more demands for RV parks and campgrounds. This proposal establishes a conditional use permit process which analyzes the project to the proposed standards, CUP and PUD standards. They require a public hearing with the Planning Commission and allows for comment for surrounding neighbors and potentially impacted agencies. It is worth noting that recreational vehicle parks and campgrounds were already a conditional use in the Rural Service Center prior to this 2019 amendment. At the June 3rd, 2025 public hearing, the Planning Commission voted to recommend approval of this code amendment with a modification to remove the RV park campground use from the rural and agricultural zoning districts only. And the Planning Commission's recommendation letter is attached in Appendix C of the staff report. So as I stated before, this file was noticed to public agencies on July 1st. We received public comments from Spirit Lake Fire Protection District and the City of Dover, and we received no comment replies from Idaho Department of Fish and Game, Department of Environmental Quality, Idaho Transportation Department, and Idaho Department of Water Resources. And as of the date of this staff report, we have received public comments, and those all should be in your packet today. The next is the comprehensive plan analysis. I'm just going to go through the staff analysis. I won't read the policies unless the board would like me to.
I don't think that the board needs you to read the policies. Okay, thank you.
So the first comprehensive plan component is property rights. So this application was noticed in the newspaper on July 1st, 2025, and noticed to public agencies on July 1st, 2025. Currently, RV parks and campgrounds are conditionally permitted in each zone, except for the Forestry 40 and Industrial, where they are prohibited entirely. The proposed code amendment would remove RV parks and campgrounds as a conditional use from the rural agricultural, forestry, and rural service center zoning districts, which constitute approximately 46.4% of the land in Bonner County, according to the Bonner County Land Use Analysis Tool. This change would restrict the RV parks and campgrounds use to the higher density zoning districts of suburban, recreation, commercial, and Alpine Village. In the short term, this amendment could reduce potential subsurface sewage treatment concentration in the rural and agricultural forestry zoning districts, where water and sewer districts are often absent. It may also mitigate potential burdens on wells and removing the use in areas that could have less developed infrastructure. However, in the long term, limiting RV parks and campgrounds to higher density zoning districts could place greater strain on these areas. Potential impacts include a potential rise in fire risk due to concentrated development, increased subsurface sewage in limited areas, greater demand on aquifers and water sources, further density increases in areas with potentially limited urban water and sewer infrastructure, and potential increase in road maintenance costs for the county. The next component is population. Bonner County experienced a population increase of 9.1% between the 2020 census and the 2022 population estimates, rising from 47,105 to 51,414. This population growth has contributed to increased demand for housing throughout the county, including both incorporated and unincorporated areas. The proposed code amendment would locate RV parks and campgrounds only within higher density zoning districts such as suburban, recreation, commercial, and Alpine Village. This could have implications for housing availability in these zones, potentially affecting a larger number of people. The Placement of RV parks and campgrounds in these higher density areas, often situated in or around areas of impact designated for potential annexation by nearby cities, may influence the growth of these cities and the availability of diverse housing options for county and city residents. Excuse me. According to Bonner County Revised Code 12-333, RV parks are classified as a commercial use, while BCRC 12-332 residential use table permits RV dwelling units as alternatives to single-family and accessory dwelling units. RV parks and campgrounds are generally intended for short-term occupancy, as defined in Idaho Code 63-18034 and 67-6539 as 30 days or less, which also affirms local jurisdiction's authority to regulate land uses. Next is school facility and transportation. Lake Bonner School District and West Bonner School District and their respective transportation departments were notified of the proposed code amendment. School districts did not comment as to how the code amendment would or would not adversely impact the district's ability to provide adequate school services and facilities for new and existing students. The transportation departments did not provide a comment, and this code amendment does not appear to conflict with this component. Next is economic development. The use supports economic development by providing seasonal lodging that aligns with tourism and recreation activities in the county. Economic development in the rural, agriculture and forestry, and rural service center zoning districts could be affected by the proposed code amendment. Next is land use. Recreational vehicle parks and campgrounds are currently a conditional use in all zoning districts, with the exception of Forestry 40 and industrial. When considering a conditional use permit, the applicable hearing body is charged with reviewing the proposals and crafting conditions to mitigate the impact on surrounding areas. It should be noted that at the time of the adoption of the subject code, the review standard was that the use is in accordance with the general and specific objectives of the comprehensive plan. Since the adoption of this code in 2019, the Board of County Commissioners has adopted new versions of the comprehensive plan components. Today, the hearing body is charged with reviewing applications to determine if they are not in conflict with the policies of the comprehensive plan. It is unknown to staff whether a review was completed to determine compliance with these policies before the use was added to the Bonner County Revised Code. Next is natural resources. Impacts to natural resources were not identified by any agency. Currently, the RV park and campground use requires a conditional use permit. All conditional use permits, regardless of zoning district, are subject to BCRC Title 12, Chapter 7 environmental standards, which addresses standards that provide protections to natural resources. So this code amendment does not appear to conflict with the policies of this component. Next is hazardous areas. Hazardous areas exist in all zoning districts in Bonner County. This component is evaluated on a case-by-case basis when evaluating the parcels and conditional use permit proposals for RV parks and campgrounds. Furthermore, all conditional use permits are subject to BCRC Title 14 flood damage protection and BCRC Title 12 Chapter 7 environmental standards, which address development within hazardous areas. This code amendment does not appear to conflict with the policies of this component. Next is public services, facilities, and utilities. The Board of County Commissioners, in their direction to staff, implicated that the RV park and campground uses in the lower density areas could potentially introduce unsustainable density in these zones and could have an impact on services provided in the area, specifically wells and subsurface sewage. The board's intention is to have all higher density uses, commercial or residential, to be within the higher density areas such as suburban recreation and commercial zoning districts, which is directly supported by policy 1 of this component, and the proposed amendment does not appear to conflict with these policies. We did receive a comment from the Spear Lake Fire District and expressed concerns over RV parks and campgrounds, and their comment is in your packet today. Transportation. The Bonner County Road and Bridge Department has developed and maintains a comprehensive transportation system plan for unincorporated Bonner County. BCRC 12-497C1 RV park standards addresses the need for these developments to have direct access on a maintained county road, state highway, or forest access roads, or private roads built to Title 12 Appendix A standards. This standard appears to be directly supported by Policy 2 of this component. Additionally, BCRC 12-497E states that bike and pedestrian access shall be integrated into the site. This standard in BCRC 12-497E appears to be supported by Policy 3 of this component. The proposal does not appear to be in conflict with the policies of this component. Next is recreation. Current recreational opportunities for the general public that are available in Bonner County are anticipated to remain the same with this code amendment. The availability of less lodging or camping options could potentially impact the expansion of recreational activities in the rural agricultural, forestry, and rural service center zoning district areas. Special sites and areas. This project appears not to be in conflict with the policies of this component. Housing. The BCRC 12-332 and 12-496 outline recreational vehicle dwelling units which allow for recreational vehicles to be used in the same manner as a single-family dwelling or accessory dwelling unit. In contrast, BCRC 12-333 and 12-497 implicate that RV parks and campgrounds are not to be used as, or to be used as short-term stays, excuse me. RV parks, campgrounds are not intended to serve as long-term or workforce housing. Comparable transient lodging uses identified in the commercial use table, such as hotels, hostels, resorts, and retreats, are not intended for long-term or permanent residential occupancy. Similarly, RV parks permitted within commercial zones are intended to accommodate short-term stays that should not function as permanent residential developments. Further support for such a limitation can be found in Idaho Code 63-1803-4 and 67-6539, which define short-term occupancy as 30 days or less and affirm the authority of local jurisdictions to regulate land uses accordingly. Based on this guidance, a limitation of 30 cumulative days per calendar year per guest is considered appropriate to maintain the commercial nature of this use and avoid reclassification as a residential occupancy. So as a commercial use, it does not conflict with the goals of this component. Or excuse me, that should be the policies of this component. Community design. Some recent proposals for RV parks and campgrounds have attracted notable public attention. Many community members have expressed concerns about the compatibility of these uses with the rural character and intended development patterns of the zoning districts in which they are proposed. These concerns often center on potential impacts to surrounding area and whether such uses align with the expectations of rural residential living. Finally, agriculture. This proposal does not appear to conflict with the policies of this component, as farming and agricultural pursuits remain viable and encouraged in the rural and agricultural forestry zoning districts. As I stated before, the Planning Commission recommended approval of this file, but they recommended an approval to remove the RV park and campground use from only the rural and agricultural forestry zoning districts. The Planning Commission in their deliberation found that the recreational vehicle parks and campgrounds use in the rural service center zoning district that the removal of the rural service center zoning district would be in conflict with the policies of the comprehensive plan and BCRC 12-227 as detailed in their recommendation letter dated June 24th, 2025.
Can I ask just to clarify that? Because mine says that the Planning Commission in their deliberation found that the recreational vehicle parks campground use in rural service center zoning district would be in conflict with the policies of the comprehensive plan.
That was a typo on my end. That was, the deliberation did state that the Planning Commission would, that the removal of the use in that zoning district would be in conflict.
Which is why they're recommending to leave it, would be my understanding.
Yes.
And as looks like a typo, the comprehensive plan in BCRC 12-227, there is no 227. I believe it's intended to be 327, which is the definition of the rural service center.
That's correct. That concludes my presentation. I can answer any questions if you have any more for me.
Can you pull up the rural service center definition on the screen?
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you. Does the board have any questions for staff?
Not at this time.
Commissioner Ford? All right.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you.
You guys are the applicant on this file, so if you would like to give a presentation.
If we would like to give the presentation. Commissioner Cord, do you want to give a presentation?
No, I'm going to wait till the rebuttal.
You're going to sit here arguing with yourself? All right. Commissioner Domke?
No presentation. I'll wait for deliberation.
Okay. All right. So we will open up for public comment in support. We'll go online, Mr. Bowman. And then there's another name up there. Okay, Dave Bowman.
Hi there. It's actually Susan Bowman. Can you hear me?
I suppose we'll accept that change. Yes, ma'am.
We're on the same computer, so hopefully you'll let us both speak and give us each our 3 minutes. That's what I would appreciate.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead, Susan Bowman of Bonner County. Go.
Yes. I just wanted to say thank you, first of all, to the commissioners for bringing this. I think it's kind of a watershed moment. And really, as you know, Keep Bonner County Rural has really been fighting hard for this for a long time. But really, it's the people. It's the people that want it. It's not the organization. So I just wanted to make that point, and I just really wanted to thank you. Now, I wanted to just go over a little bit about what happened at the Planning Commission meeting and why they decided that rural service centers should stay in there. And I'm not going to, talk for them or anything, but the discussion was long about that. And basically what they were saying is that the purpose statement would take care of any issues in a rural service center, meaning that, RV parks could go, somebody could apply for one and then, they could easily deny it because of 12327 item B, because they wouldn't be able to have adequate sewage and disposal services and that sort of thing. And so what I said to them is that, that's a purpose statement, and it's true that you cannot regulate from a purpose statement. So I just wanted to make sure that you guys understood that. There's a lot of case law on this in planning. You cannot go to those purpose statements to regulate something. So I tried to get them to see that, and they didn't want to, and that's okay. But I just wanted to bring that up in case you are tempted to perhaps leave rural service center in there. And I would encourage you to look at some of those rural service centers. You're going to see the same exact impacts that you're going to see in ag forest and rural residential. Exact same in many of them. So that was what I wanted to bring forth today, as well as just saying thank you very much for bringing this code amendment to us. And I'm obviously very much in support of it. And I would like to just give the rest of my time to my husband, if that's okay.
All right. So Dave Bowman, you're up next, or not?
Okay.
Okay. Go
I'm
ahead.
going to pull up a document. So, 1 second, please. Well, somehow or other, I got all turned around here. So
Do you want to let Matt Linscott go? You look for your document, we come back to you.
Sure, let Matt go.
All right, Mr. Linscott.
Well, I'm here. I believe staff kind of covered it quite well, what what the planning commission came up with.
That's not where that yellow hand is.
I don't know if Alan Songstead is online or not. The reason why we've gone ahead and we didn't go ahead and eliminate, we didn't want to go ahead and eliminate it from the service centers because those are pretty much commercial uses. Service centers that's pretty much what they create. And RV parks are, as David mentioned in our prior meeting, those low density zones like rural and ag forest, those are low density divisions, but those rural service centers, they kind of create individual pockets, if you will, of permitted commercial uses. And so we didn't see the need to go ahead and eliminate from those rural service centers.
Okay, you got the benefit of my eyes thinking that hand was on your name. I thought your hand was up, but it looks like it's actually Jeff. Sorry about that, sir. And then I'll come back to Dave.
Good afternoon, Asia. Good afternoon, commissioners. My name is Jeff Stevens. I'm a Bonner County property owner in Sagal. First, I want to thank you for this opportunity to speak as a 30-year Navy veteran. Also want to personally thank you all for your public service. I know it can be very challenging at times. As with the previous hearing about the Bonita del Sol hearing, it just proven fact that we in Bonner County have challenges to county infrastructure and services trying to keep up with such pace of population growth. And public health, safety, and welfare by law is your priority as the elected leaders. And I know the staff report mentioned the email from the district administrator of Spirit Lake Fire Protection. And I was trying to think of a statement to read to you all, but this person she really just nailed it. And she sent an email on May 27th, and I just want to read that so it's there for the audience. And in quotes, notably, RV parks, campgrounds pose unique risk, especially in the wildland urban interface, as a fire could spread to other RVs surrounding homes in the wildland, potentially impacting all of Bonner County, even potentially threatening homes in neighboring fire districts. RV parks are unregulated in Idaho, and the transient nature of the park makes prevention enforcement nearly impossible. RVs burn more rapidly than structures and spread to other neighboring RVs rapidly. A full RV park campground poses a high risk for civilian rescue or even life loss. Propane tanks and other hazards also associated with RVs can pose unique operational challenges for short-staffed fire districts as we are experiencing now. I can't think of a more profound statement as why this amendment needs to be approved. And I really appreciate your time and urge you to approve this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, Mr. Bowman.
Okay, so I think the three of you know I submitted a very lengthy and very detailed and very analytical public comment. And I'm hoping that the three of you read it. So there's no need to go through all of that, but just based on the stuff I've heard today, I'll hit a couple of points. The decision letter said that removal of the rural RSC zoning district from this would be in conflict with the comp plan. But I said in my comment that statement's conclusory because they say that, but they offered no evidence at all to support that claim. They're just saying that it would be. And then referencing back to the AM 0007-19 staff report, they said as recreation in the county continues to increase, there's more and more demands for RV parks and campgrounds. This proposal establishes a conditional use permit process which analyzes blah, blah, blah. The fact is there was zero evidence supported, nothing was given to support that claim that there's a growing demand for RV parks at that time, and there hasn't been one given since. Nothing to support that there's any demand for RV parks. And in fact, if you go back and look at, I won't mention the case name because I realize it's not completely stamped and signed off, but just a recent case dealing with RV parks that extended over 3.5 years. There was, to my knowledge, not one single public or agency comment ever submitted in support of the concept, they were all against it, 100% for a myriad of reasons, but largely to deal with public safety, hazards, the light, noise, glare, all that stuff that you can't do per the comprehensive plan and per our code. And there was never any evidence given to support any of that those would not be an issue. And that doesn't change when you go to the RSC zone. It's the same, like think of the Vay store or up in Coolin on the southwest side of the lake. Those are, by the golf course, and they're not agricultural areas, but they're certainly rural in nature. And I'm pretty darn sure that the people there aren't going to want the same things that the people living in Blanchard don't want, or in the Selly Valley. It makes absolutely zero sense. So I went through my analysis. In my comment, I countered a lot of what the staff report, where they said was not in or that they didn't really analyze the comprehensive plan. They did a little bit better than normal, but I gave in my 9 pages very thorough analysis of why this code amendment absolutely is in conformance or not in conflict with the comp plan. And there I'm down to 1 second. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, Miss Karen Kelly.
He just said everything.
You want to just say ditto and that counts?
Can you put me later so I can refresh your mind?
I'll put you all the way at the bottom so you
All
can
right.
think of a reason to say something. How's that? All right, next up, Susan Martin. Wayne, am I putting you at the bottom too?
No, I'll go after her if I can have her time. Anything she doesn't use.
I just stand there for 3 straight minutes. That's marriage for you.
Okay, I know. Susan Martin, Bonner County resident. I'm asking that you approve this because of the fact that we moved here along with a lot of other people who have lived here forever, want to be in rural America. And what I'm finding more and more, that rural part of our country is being taken away. Last year, there was a survey sent out to Bonner County residents regarding how we felt about keeping Bonner County as rural as possible. And it was overwhelmingly, people said, yeah, we don't want a lot of growth, especially in those areas like ag forest, and it's near and dear to our heart. And we're the little peons sometimes that just get pushed aside because we're not big business. We're not developers with lots of money that talk. And it hurts to see this kind of growth. Rural service centers, we've got service centers. We don't need more. I don't think we need to be adding to them either. I do not want to live down the road from an RV park or across the road from one, because with that, even though they're not permanent people living there, there's a turnover of people constantly. And then you've got to deal with their lack of respect many times in those places for our rural area where we live. And so I would really appreciate you to consider that when you approve this. Thank you.
Okay. 1.5 minutes added to you because she speaks quickly. Wayne Martin.
Wayne Martin, Bonner County resident. I don't know if we can change the amendment before you, but the letter from the city of Dover in the staff report gives a clear argument why RV parks and campgrounds should also be removed from the suburban zone. Suburban is a residential zone, and why not support commercial businesses in it, or why support commercial business in a residential zone? Consider expanding the amendment today to include no RV parks, campgrounds in suburban zone, or direct its deletion in ordinance updates after adoption of the land use component and implementation changes. RV parks should not be allowed in rural center areas. When we live rural, we understand the risk, the lack of services, fire, medical, law enforcement. In major cities such as San Diego, New York, Detroit, Las Vegas, San Francisco, Washington, D.C., when there is a residential fire, they send out 3 engines, and they also include a ladder truck in those areas. First in engine makes a report as to the need for additional services, or they will cancel additional services depending upon the size. As you folks know, EMS services are taxed with a minimum staffing right now. We also know that the fire services do not have all their stations manned. They also have many of them, or a number of them, that have no equipment in them, and some of them have limited equipment with no staffing. Our sheriff department has not had an increase in patrol officers for over 10 years that we've lived here, and I believe it's beyond that. I have seen trailer parks and RV parks go up in flames. It is scary as to how fast that happens. You blink twice and it is potentially gone. I've seen it happen in Pasadena and other areas when I did fire photography work. You don't want that out in a rural area where you're dependent upon one engine coming out and calling for mutual aid and praying that there are not additional fires going on, because service is at the fire that exists. And just because a fire happens in another area doesn't mean that you get to leave the fire and go. You have to be released by the command and all. So, please look at that. I'm not sure why I wrote that one, but thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Sure why he wrote thank you, or?
No, why I wrote the other. Yeah, why I wrote thank you.
All right, next up is Judd.
My name, we got right this time. Last time I spoke, it was Judy.
Now, is that my fault or penmanship?
No,
Because
it's
the D
not.
is solid right there.
Yeah, terrible penmanship. Good afternoon, Asia, commissioners. My name is Judd Conley, and I'm a Bonner County resident. And the Rural Service Center 12327B, use of this zone is appropriate in areas designated as neighborhood, commercial, resort community, or transition by the comprehensive plan and community plans, and that are served at the time of the development by adequate sewage disposal, services, water supplies, roads, and other needed public services and facilities. So Amendment 94-6 created 25 rural service centers. 11 more have been added. And majority of them are along Highway 95, where there's access and easy access. Every year, the county increases households relying on individual wells, drilling 400 wells per year, and RV parks have uncontrolled water usage. They would go crazy if they did that. We don't know the water quantity available in the county and rely on the code stating adequate sewage disposal services and water supply. We then delegate agencies to deal with the individual requests to ensure adequate ability to control the sewage and the ability to drill a well. So I ask you to approve this amendment and not put an unknown burden on our scarce resources. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dennis.
Dennis Walker, Bonner County resident. I had intended to read the comment that was sent to the Planning Commission by the Spirit Lake Fire Protection District. That's
Okay.
already been done. I was also going to read a part of a comment that was sent to the Planning Department by the Bonner County Sheriff in reference to a CUP for a RV park that you recently reviewed. I think it was 6 weeks ago.
Okay.
And here's what he said in reference to RV parks in rural areas. The health, welfare, and safety of visitors and our residents staying or living in or around RV parks is far better served by placing those facilities in zones with close proximity to emergency infrastructure, e.g. fire hydrants, paved roads, and emergency services. and then I was going to read the Spirit Lake Fire Protection District's comment. And after that, I was going to say, so I'll say it now, the increased risk of fire starting in RV parks does not only threaten lives and property, it also increases the likelihood of lawsuits against the county, especially since the record will show that the county was informed of the increased risk. And since I have some time, I just wanted to say that this amendment, in essence, is to repeal a previous amendment. And that was AM 7-19. And it also states in this staff report that the planning department isn't fully confident that a comprehensive review of the comp plan was even done. And I think it would be a good idea, in addition to reviewing the comp plan for this amendment, AM 225, since it might be the case that a really good comprehensive review of a really good review of the comp plan for the original amendment might need to be done too, rather than looking at how this amendment complies with everything. Look and see what the original, how well the original amendment complied, and that's what we're living with now. So if you reject Dave's amendment, this one, then you are in essence confirming the previous amendment. You're saying that looks good. That's the one that we want. And I don't think there was a real good review of that one. And I don't see why you can't do that, to take a good look at that one too, right now when you have the chance, if you would. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Mary Lee?
I'm Judy's wife.
It looks like it. You guys are complete opposite.
When he was called up, he had a beard and it said Judy Connell.
It's like you guys write with anger to give your comments. You don't read it.
My name's Marilee Conley, and I am a Bonner County resident. Fact, total U.S. Army Corps of Engineers visitation numbers for 2024 was 605,026. There's no evidence of a positive economic impact by allowing RV parks and campgrounds in agricultural, rural, and rural service center district zones. The wording of the purpose statement 12-327, a rural service center district, includes, quote, as well as limited tourist commercial services. We'd like to see the wording changed to serve daily needs of nearby residents. The proposed removal of RV parks and campgrounds takes away negative impacts to rural residents and supports our cherished rural character and comprehensive plan. I support approval of this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Larry?
Hello, my name's Larry Medosky, Bonner County resident. I agree with 95% of, well, probably 100% of the things that have already been said. And so I'm not going to be too redundant, but I want to focus on two areas. One is fire. I happen to know a bit about it. I spent 11 years in the fire service in a district that had both city and rural areas. I can assure you, as I know all of you know, that fire can spread incredibly fast. RVs are known. They're manufactured to be basically flammable pieces of equipment. I mean, they're just that way. You put propane in it. You take older units. You take lots of that fuel, and it can happen very quickly. I.e., we just had a fire in Priest River, in the city of Priest River, where an RV started a fire. Before the fire department could get there, the adjacent house was completely gone. The fire departments we have here, for the most part, are volunteer. They do a great job. In Priest River, they did a wonderful job stopping that fire from spreading to adjacent homes. But the bottom line is that even in cities where you would think that that would be the most appropriate place for it, they have problems. And so taking this and putting it into rural areas, I don't care if you call it a service center, I don't care if it's next door to a store, it doesn't matter. The bottom line is that whenever you're taking RVs and putting them into a smaller space in a rural area, you're inviting problems. You shouldn't do that. One of the previous speakers said, that it can cause liability problems. I know that the county already has plenty of liability problems. Why are you wanting to enhance that? I would think that you would want to reduce liability, not encourage it, not improve it. The other point that I want to make quickly is on CUPs. This county has absolutely no enforcement or tiny enforcement of any of the conditions that are put on in CUPs. CUPs are almost a joke because there's just no enforcement. And so it makes no sense whatsoever for you to say, well, but we're going to put conditions on it. You put all the conditions you want to on it, people are going to do what they want to do, and then there's going to be nothing done about it. There's no enforcement. There's nothing you might as well just forget it. CUPs here should just be gone because you're not going to enforce them. And that's it. Thank you.
All right. Gabe. Gabe went home. All right, Charlene. You don't have to talk. Do you have something to say that's different? All right.
And no, I didn't call Ron about the COVID.
That was my thought.
I'm Charlene Monahan. I'm a Bonner County resident. And I would just like to say, in light of the Blue Lake fire that we just read about that was caused by an RV park, I would like you to vote in favor of doing this, and my vote.
All right, thank you. All right, so those were people in support of the change.
I didn't get my name on the list.
I missed the item.
All right, let's come up. Karen, do you really have something to say or no? Because I think you're running out of comments now. Do you still want to wait to the end or?
I don't care, whatever you want us to do.
Okay. Okay, sir, name?
Thank you for holding this hearing today and considering public input.
Say your name, though.
My name is George Lustelay, and I'm a resident of Bonner County, and I've been a Bonner County taxpayer for 53 years. We know that changes to land use designations can impact surrounding properties. We know that increased density of RV parks will use more water. We also know that Bonner County's water availability has not been qualified. We know that the majority of people who reside in Bonner County wish to preserve its rural character, which is an overarching theme of our comprehensive plan. We don't have data to indicate an increased demand for RV parks and campgrounds. We don't know the burdens that might be placed on transportation, property devaluation, or other impacts because the relevant agencies did not comment. I am personally a former owner and manager of a mobile home park in another state. My experience with RV parks in that vicinity was that, in many cases, the RVs became stationary residences. In some cases, RVs were eventually replaced with permanently placed manufactured homes. In the absence of regulation, some RV parks became extremely high-density communities that were not planned to be as such. I feel it is in the best interest of the public welfare of Bonner County to regulate the location of RV parks and approve the amendment being addressed here today. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, sir. Wendy, are you going?
Wendy Cossette, Bonner County resident, and I am in support of this amendment to remove RV parks from rural areas. People who elect to live in rural areas desire lower population density. Bonner County needs to encourage growth and higher density. And I will emphasize where there is infrastructure to support that growth. Providing services to rural areas is more costly per capita in rural areas. RV parks and campground in rural areas increase potential density and is beyond what should be in ag, forest, or rural areas. Approving this amendment upholds the public services, facilities, and utilities, which is a component of the comprehensive plan.
Thank you. Miss Karen?
My name is Karen Kelly, and I'm Bonner County resident. We know that RV parks and campgrounds, they've been allowed in rural service centers for a long time, and you added it to the ag, forest, and rural zones in 2019. And I think I sent this to you, but from 2020 to 2025, there were conditional use permits for only one campground and 6 RV parks that have been approved, and that I sent you, that shows it. We added a total of 53 RV spots and 2 campground sites in 5 years. So there weren't many requests, and they don't include the RV park denial that we know resulted in extensive litigation costs to the county. And that denial really demonstrated to us all that you just can't mitigate all of the problems through conditions. The AM 00719 provided the reasoning that to add RV parks and campgrounds to ag, forest, and rural areas because as recreation in the county continues to increase, there's more demands. Can't find any evidence of more demands. I just showed you 5 in 5 years. But they were granted based upon the evidence submitted up to the time of the staff report. So unfounded information brings us to today, along with a lack of interest and litigation based on unsupported facts. And I ask that you approve this amendment in its entirety and remove it from all 3 zones. Thank you.
Thank you. Diane, are you in favor?
I am in favor of removing
Okay.
RV parks from anything but commercial.
So you can go ahead and give your comment. I just needed to know because I was coming to the end. So go ahead. Or is
Well,
that?
I just wanted to get my 2 cents worth in, and that's all I have. Thank you.
All right. Okay. So that is everybody in favor of the. Oh, I can't see you, Jonna. Sorry. Go ahead.
Donna Plant Sagal. I also agree that it should be as written and approve that. I do not agree with the Planning Commission pulling it out of rural service centers, or I should say adding it to rural service centers. I believe that should be where none of the 3 should have them in their area. You can't mitigate the complications with them. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Is there anyone else online I can't see, Alex? All right, so we'll go to those that are neutral on the project or the amendment. Seeing no one neutral, anyone against, so we had 2 that said they were opposed. Actually, they crossed their names off as opposed, never mind, they changed their minds. Okay, all right.
Check online.
He said there was no one else online. So, does the staff want to give a response to anything, or we can just go straight into deliberation by the board? All right,
I
deliberate.
have a question to the staff.
Yep, we can go into deliberation, then you can ask questions.
Okay.
So the board will go into deliberation, and staff will come up to answer some questions from Commissioner Korn.
Question on rural, what was the term? Rural
Service
center. Thank you. It was there and then it was gone. Are those mainly or 100% along like state highway corridors?
No. So they are, a lot of them are. So there's a lot on Highway 57 and Highway 2 and Highway 95. And there's a handful that are on some county roads. Mostly Beaufort, Vay, and I believe Pack River.
Okay.
And then around Priest Lake.
Thank you.
Any further
That's one
questions?
question I had.
So I think the majority of our board was in support of it, that I think really what we are going to, the focus of our discussion is the change that the planning department has voted on. Is that an accurate statement for the board? Okay. So their request is that we allow the that we allow the RV campgrounds in rural service center district. So if that will be our focus, how about we start that conversation? So I went to you first last time, so we'll go Commissioner Donkey. And I said his name right, so we're good.
I was just checking. I didn't.
We gotta start wearing name tags.
It's the brightness of the shirt. I'm like,
I'm wearing this every day from now on. This is good.
it's this Wednesday pink thing. Okay, go ahead.
See, I've been focusing the time because of that difference in opinion between the Planning Commission and what we originally requested. And I do want to, thoughtfully consider what they indicated. I've been looking through the comprehensive plan policies, and I find the opposite of what the Planning Commission concluded. I think that maintaining RV park use in the rural service center zone would actually be in conflict with the comprehensive plan. For example, I look at the land use policy number 2. It says commercial and industrial uses may be conditionally permitted in areas not identified for such uses in the comprehensive plan if a critical review of the proposed use determines that the appropriate conditions, the use will not adversely impact the surrounding area. So can we create conditions to mitigate adverse impacts on the surrounding area? And at our most recent CUP hearing associated with an RV park, we came to the conclusion as a board that we could not mitigate numerous aspects of those impacts to the surrounding area. As I look at our map of both our land use designations with the current comp plan and our current zoning, it appears that more than half of the current rural service center zone areas are directly adjacent to rural residential or ag and forest zone properties. And so to me, that creates a direct conflict. Some of them are along those highway corridors, like Highway 95. And in those cases, as well as the ones around Priest Lake, the majority of those parcels that are zoned for rural service center, their land use designation would allow them to be zoned as commercial. And if they have the infrastructure and their adjacent zoning is typically suburban or recreation. And so it's not creating the kind of conflict in my mind that it does when it's adjacent to rural residential and ag and forest. And so I think as we look at what we already have for what types of land use definitions allow for commercial use as compared to the rural service center use, when something has the infrastructure for transportation, for water, for sewer, and the adjacent parcels are more compatible, such as because they're already zoned as suburban or recreation, in my opinion, that would be an opportunity for someone to pursue a zone change and go and change it to commercial and really truly pursue what is a commercial use, as compared to doing a conditional use, which I agree with public comment that we know that we have limited enforcement capability. And so CUPs tend to be problematic in nature, is my opinion. So when we look at the nature of where these rural service centers are throughout the county, the ones that could most appropriately be utilized for this type of higher density use could be converted to commercial zoned properties and addressed in that way based on what we already have in the code. I do think it's completely inappropriate to have them in the rural communities, in the middle of the R5, R10, A10, A20 zones. And then we also have comprehensive plan, natural resource policy 6. Productive farmland, timberland, and mining land should be identified and protected from adverse effects of adjoining developments. And that was another thing that came out in our hearing. with the CUP for the RV park, the most recent one, in that when you have that level of density of RVs and supporting vehicles that are going to be in that rural community coming and going, we are inviting a conflict with the ag use. And so I think that that's in conflict with the comprehensive plan, because many of these rural service centers are, again, surrounded by, if not directly contiguous with, rural residential and ag and forest zones. Those are probably the two most pertinent that I found in the comprehensive plan. And then when we go to the community design, the agriculture component, that's going to say the same thing that we just talked about. But then under community design, policy 1, promote and preserve the natural features and rural atmosphere of the community. The county should enact development standards that address development within scenic byways and design standards that account for waterfront setbacks, wildlife corridors, commercial and industrial landscaping, requirements to reduce lighting, cluster development, rural rather than urban setback standards, and other design objectives aimed at preserving the rural and natural character of the community. Again, I think that we've concluded previously in hearings that basically this is a high density level of development when you allow for an RV park. And so that, in my opinion, cannot be found to be in concert with preserving the rural and natural character of the community anytime we move outside of a higher density zone, such as something that's already zoned as suburban, recreational, commercial. So just from a comp plan review, I do have to take an opposing opinion to what the Planning Commission presented with their deliberation and findings. And then when we talk about the fact that the hazards that have been described by the fire district and by public comment, because we're saying right now in our code that it's an allowable conditional use that's commercial, I can't think of any other type of commercial development that creates that level of fire hazard, that level of risk. And so I think this is a unique type of commercial development that needs to be treated differently. And that's why I think it's appropriate for us to not allow it in the rural service center zoning.
Commissioner Horn?
I disagree. Go figure. That was an easy bet.
Not always.
So, and I disagreed when this was brought up at our Tuesday business meeting back in February, whenever it was too. I agree with parts and I disagree with others. I do agree that these type of facilities should not be in an ag forest area. Also believe that they should not be in a rural zone. My argument back then, and still is that there are rural zones along state corridors that would be a place where I think a campground or an RV park would be a good fit. People traveling and they want to pull right off the highway and park for the night or for the weekend or whatever, closer to the facilities such as fire departments, easy access, things like that. And that's what it sounds like a lot of this rural service center is in those corridors, giving quicker response times from fire districts and such. So that's the part that I disagree with, is I do believe that they should be allowed in the rural service centers, along with rural areas that are within a small confinement of state highways. And that was my argument back months ago when this was first brought to the board, and still is. Defining those areas might be difficult, but.
So when I looked at the difference, I focused on 12.327, what the actual definition of rural service center district is. And I, probably no surprise, I landed on the side of what Commissioner Domke said, but I was sticking to the specific definition. And so if we go line by line on what that definition is, one of the things that I find is that if we were to allow for that development to occur here, we're actually negating what this district is. This district is actually defined by us. It's intended to provide opportunities for a variety of affordable housing types that are within walking distance of commercial services. These purposes are accomplished by, and one of the ways that they identify that accomplishment is allowing for mixed-use buildings, housing over office, retail. That's not what this use would be intended, is for. And so if we were to use that space, we would actually be displacing and actually would push us in non-compliance with our comprehensive plan because we're supposed to identify some of these areas to allow for that type of housing. The other one that I find is when you look at point number 3, it says allowing for light industrial uses where activities are conducted primarily indoors and impacts to adjacent uses are mitigated. That's not what a campground is. It is outdoors. So that is negating what the definition of the Rural Service Center District is. And so then it also excludes commercial uses with extensive outdoor storage. I don't think it's a far-fetched idea to think of RV as we are actually increasing the view of outdoor by however many RVs that you would put on a piece of property. That I think it's the look that it's intended to negate is what it looks like in storage. I think you're going to end up with your external propane tank, your vehicles, a whole bunch of stuff out of doors, which this district says we're supposed to exclude that from this district. And so it actually directs us from this district to the appropriate district in the definition when it says that we should exclude larger scale commercial uses that would be more effectively located in incorporated cities. That again is telling us the definition that is this request that we included is actually telling us that we need to push it in the incorporated areas because this is it's an outdoor extensive activity. That's what the point of RV campground is. It is actually pushing our ability to have different types of affordable housing out of the district that we created for that reason. And the definition of this is affordable housing. That's not what we're creating. This is a campground. So for me, I don't see how this is actually in line. I think that there is also an element of when you tell somebody that they're essentially performing a commercial activity, they are not coming to their commercial activity in the cases of like your conditional use permit with the insurance to mitigate the risks and hazards that exist within essentially the housing residential area. And that's part of what we've heard from our community is, well, what happens when there's a fire? Because we're saying conditionally we allowed it, there's no, you must have this insurance to make sure you're covering. Those are concerns that community has. And that pulls me into the health, safety, and welfare of all, not just where it goes. So I think when you just read our definition that we have of 12327 Rural Service District, it actually does not fit and it directs us to not do this in this district. And for that reason, I don't support the amended request from the planning department because I can't get out of the definition of Rural Service Center District to allow for that use in this service area. I equally agree that the areas that are not incorporated, that are not attached to the city, that it does get impacted by increasing density on a small footprint. Doesn't matter the number of times, and I think that's also why we're supposed to push it into the industrial city areas. And so my position is that to include it in the Rural Service Center District is actually not in compliance with our definition of in 12327, and it's not in compliance with our comprehensive plan.
May I, Commissioner Corn, I want to speak to the comment about direct highway access in those locations, because I understand your position. That's where I want to go back. I did review the map, and as we look at current zoning, where the rural service centers are along like Highway 95, I'm looking at an example right now. The vast majority of any current rural service center zone parcel that's along the Highway 95 corridor on the comprehensive plan land use designation is either currently designated transition or neighborhood commercial. And the commercial use table would allow an RV park to be placed in a commercial zone property. And because commercial parcels, or I'm sorry, because parcels that are designated as transition or neighborhood commercial can be zoned commercial, if somebody wanted to create an RV park, they could change their zoning to commercial, and then they would qualify to be able to pursue the RV park permit. And so my looking at that concern that you've raised is there is room within our current code for someone to go through the process to be able to pursue that in those locations that I believe would be more suitable. And so by removing the allowance in the commercial use table for the rural service center, but leaving it as it's proposed right now in the commercial zone, somebody would still have a path to be able to do that. So that's the solution that I think is reasonable, because the current code in our current county process would allow a landowner to pursue it that way. And then they should have, like you were saying, more access to emergency services. In general, in those locations, the surrounding parcels are zoned either, typically they're zoned suburban or recreational. It's not always consistent, it depends. But it's not the same as those locations that are on the more county roads and rural locations. They're typically surrounded by ag forest and rural residential only. So I think it's never a perfect fit, but I think there's a solution available to someone who wants to pursue that RV park in those locations if they were to change their property use to commercial, which the comp plan would allow if they wanted to take that approach.
Any further deliberation by the board?
Not for me.
No, I don't have any.
All right, at this time, are we ready to entertain a motion? You want to go that way? Commissioner Donkey?
I move to approve this file AM 0002-25 to amend Chapter 3, Subchapter 12-333 of Title 12, Bonner County Revised Code, to remove recreational vehicle parks / campgrounds as a conditional use from the rural, agricultural / forestry, and rural service center, finding that this is not in conflict with the policies of the Bonner County Comprehensive Plan as enumerated in the following findings of fact and conclusions of law. Conclusion 1, the proposed amendment is in accord with Idaho Code Title 31, Chapter 7. Conclusion 2, the proposed amendment is in accord with Idaho Code Title 67, Chapter 65. Conclusion 3, the proposed amendment is not in conflict with the policies of the Bonner County Comprehensive Plan. This decision is based upon the evidence submitted up to the time the staff report was prepared and testimony received at this hearing. I further move to adopt the findings of fact and conclusions of law as set forth in the staff report or as amended during this hearing, and direct planning staff to draft written findings and conclusions to reflect this motion, have the chair sign, and transmit to all interested parties. This action does not result in a taking of private property.
I'll second to further the motion.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Further deliberation by the board. Commissioner Corn?
I have none.
Commissioner Donkey?
No, I'll let the deliberation stand.
All right, roll call vote.
Yes?
Yes?
No.
All right, motion passes. It is 4:18, and we didn't have a resolution. There wasn't another, no.
No, I'll have one prepared, and I can either bring it to a business meeting or I can bring it to next Thursday's continuation, whichever you prefer.
Okay, it is